There we go.
Perfect. Looks like we're working now, so we'll get underway. Once again, my name's Chad Dreher from the VERICO head office. I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out today to join this edition of Hear from the Pros. Today on the Hear from the Pros, of course, we have Jared Dreher, host chair of the NAC, hosting the call for us. And today's guest is Daryl French, owner of VERICO LendingMax. And today he's going to share with us his best practices in nurturing leads into clients. So on that note, Jared and Daryl, I'll let you guys take it away.
Great. Thanks a lot, Chad. I really appreciate that. Daryl, it's a pleasure to have you here today. So I'm quite excited. We had a great two-part topic here for everyone on the call today. Is what we're going to talk about first is how to prospect and get that lead in. And then once you have that lead, how do you convert the lead into your client, and also to make sure that they're a long-term client for life? And in addition to that, how do you leverage that client to get more referrals? So I'm quite excited to talk with Daryl and have a great conversation about that. So first of all, thank you so much, Daryl, for coming on board.
No problem. Look forward to it.
Excellent. So Daryl, what do you think is like to get, first of all, let's start off at the beginning. You don't have a customer right now, right? If you're starting out as a mortgage broker on that side. What do you think is a great technique, or what do you think you should start off to get that first customer?
Well, I think anything to do with prospecting, I think first and foremost, people have to be doing things that they enjoy. So if your strong suit is on the phone or doing face-to-faces or group meetings, I think you want to play to your strengths, because if you're doing something you enjoy and you're passionate about, there's a whole lot better chance of you sticking with it and being consistent. And I think that is a key word, is consistency. So you've got to find something you enjoy and really going after it. And that doesn't mean that you never do face-to-faces if that's not your favorite part and you just do phone calls. But you want to do the majority, kind of the 80-20 rule, and really go after the things that you do enjoy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I think one of the key words is you said on that part of it, and I think a lot of brokers that there's mistakes made in any part of brokering on that side is the consistency part. And I think you need to stick to 2 or 3 items that you like to do for prospecting, but you got to continually do that consistently, as Daryl said. Like you just can't stop. As soon as you get busy, you just can't stop your prospecting. You have to put the systems in place, right, Daryl, to keep that going.
Yeah, and I think that's crucial, because I think one of the curses in our industry is people get really busy. They start doing really good prospecting, and I look at prospecting in 2 fields, going after referral sources as well as clients. And you get really busy doing your prospecting, and then all of a sudden the clients start to come in, and you get really, really busy doing deals, and the first thing to drop off is all that prospecting that got the deals coming in the first place. And I call that the roller coaster ride. So you start going up and down, and your income is going up and down and up and down. And that adds a lot of stress to people. And I think it's probably one of the main reasons people leave this industry. So if you can come up with a consistent plan where you're doing your 5 calls a day, you're doing your personal notes, you're doing your new contacts, all of those kinds of things, blocking out lead generation time. If you do that consistently, regardless of the deals that are sitting on your desk, and make that as much of a priority, then I think you can build a real business model that's a viable long-term model.
Yeah, I agree with all those comments. And I think one of the key things that a lot of people aren't doing right now, which you're getting back to sort of basics on that program, is you got to get FaceTime, and you need to be setting up, I think, at least 3 to 4 meetings a week, where you're meeting with new clients or new prospects or new existing prospects, where you're sitting either for coffee or lunch with them, and talking to them and leveraging those relationships as well. What are your thoughts on that, Daryl?
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's old school. I know there's some value in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all these things, and I don't think anybody should be ignoring those today. But I think there's a huge amount of value, as you say, being on the FaceTime, so one-on-ones, getting in front of 2 or 3 people and actually speaking to them, asking them questions, and interacting with them. I think that's a really important part that sometimes we hide behind the computer a little bit, and I think getting out in front of it is really important, and doing a combination of them rather than just focusing on the one or the other.
Excellent, excellent. So now that you've, so say you're having your FaceTime or your meeting, what do you sort of perceive as for yourself? How do you give sort of value or get that, prospect lead to start sending the business into you?
Well, I think the big thing there is you got to be prepared ahead of time. So if you have to be able to outline to whoever you're speaking to some true value. Why should they do business with you? If it's a referral source, why should they be referring, probably their most valued asset in their business, a client, over to you? And so you really need to have a very clear value proposition for them. And I think this is one of the areas that I think a lot of people fall down in. And I call it brochure vomit, but it's people start selling before they actually have asked questions and understand what are truly the person they're talking to, their hot buttons. And so if you just start selling features, I can do this, I can get you the best interest rate, I can best service, I'm available 24/7, all these kinds of things, well, those might not be things that the recipient has any interest in. And you're just blowing sunshine. And so I think it's so important. I call it, and anybody that's involved in my coaching and working with me, I call it 5, 6, 7. And I didn't create it. I think it was Joe Stump in the Buy Referral Only program. Yeah. But it's something I glommed onto many, many years ago. And I think it's a fantastic tool, and it's an easy one to remember. But 5, 6, 7 is just, it's not till you get to your 5th, 6th, 7th question to a person that you really start to truly understand what they value and what are the important things. The first, definitely the first couple of responses tend to be autoresponders. If you ask somebody, what's the most important thing? Oh, I need the best interest rate. Well, normally that's not the number one driver for people. Or, my favorite thing, someone picks up the phone and calls and says, what's your best 5-year rate? I always turn it around and put it back to them, what is it about the 5-year rate that's so important to you? And you start to ask these questions and get them talking, and all of a sudden you're finding out things like, well, I want to be locked in because I'm not sure about my job stability. Or I want to be locked in because, I'm moving up in the company and I know my income's going to increase, so I want some stability. Or I'm, starting out a new job, I'm going to be business for self next year. Those are the things now I can start to build some value in the product I'm delivering versus here's a 5-year fixed rate mortgage, I'm competing with everybody out there.
Yeah,
so I think that's crucial.
That's great points. And maybe you want to just go over just for everybody what sort of the steps of the process of the 5, 6, 7, because a lot of people on the call may not have heard of that process before. Yeah,
so basically the 5, 6, 7 is just a series of questions. So the first questions tend to be you want all the questions to be open-ended, but very exploratory, very non-threatening. So you don't want to be asking what's your plan for the next 3 years with your house. You want to build up. So you want to start off very non-threatening, simple questions like ask about the term they've requested. So what is it about the 5-year that you're looking for? And they may say consistency. So you think the market's going to change. Well, no, I don't think the market's going to change. Have you looked at a variable rate package with maybe a fixed interest rate higher than the base payment? And you start to ask these questions and get them talking, and they start to open up and start to get more, basically get deeper inside them and find out their true motivations.
Yeah. And, the real thing, we have a similar philosophy in our thing, is we always try and find out the why. What is the reason why for the clients, right?
Exactly.
Coming in, and same with when you're talking about your prospects as well. Why is it important that they work with you, right? Why is it important that client deals with you? And ask that questions very much in that part of it. And so, how do you consistently in doing all these consistent? If you want to be consistent, right? Is there any systems that you're working with right now that consistently deliver value to the prospects that you have out there?
Well, there's a whole bunch of ways you can do it. VERICO's got the VERICO Dynamics. I'm one of the partners in GoMax Solutions. All of these programs, the whole idea of a CRM program is to keep you on track, right? And so there's multiple aspects within a CRM. And what we try to do is have the things that you have to do every day. So I call those the activities. Right? So if I have a goal of doing $2 million a month in mortgages, well, what are the actual day-to-day activities I have to do to accomplish that? So you'd mentioned earlier, I want to be in front of 3 new clients a week. I want to make touch base with 2 new referral sources a week, and I want to touch base with 5 existing referral sources a week. And you set those goals up, and you block out the times to do them. and I keep saying it over and over, is you want to make sure that those activities are on par with that file sitting on your desk. And to me, that's probably one of the most difficult things for agents out there to get that into their head, because they view that file as dollars, immediate dollars today. But if you start to put too much focus on the deals and let everything else go, that's fine. You make money tomorrow, but next month, 2 months down the road, which is what you're always building on, that's where you start to miss and you get back into the roller coaster. So having a plan that not only keeps you connected to your clients, sending out material to your clients, valuable stuff to your clients, but also having a plan that keeps you on track is absolutely crucial.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think, one of the things I learned from my last coach test is that we implemented as well, Daryl, just to add into that, and I think if you want to take out sort of that roller coaster thing, instead of focusing in on the deals, you should be focusing on how many initial consultations you're doing a week, and that means a brand new client, brand new referral source you're meeting. If you have on your whiteboard you're meeting with 12 new initial consultations in the week, that's going to turn to a certain percentage of deals. And if you can get that consistently every week, but doing initial consultations and get the habit of that, along with all your other systems, you're going to have a consistent business.
That's right. And you start to, there's not a lot of agents out there, I would guess, that can actually tell me how many appointments do I have to take to fund a deal.
Yeah.
Right? And you start to, if you can drill down in your database or drill down in your activities that far, then if I do 12 appointments, I'm going to get 6 deals out of it. Now that you can start to look at it and go, okay, now I got to start tweaking my client appointments or my client calls, and if I make a few little changes to those calls and I bump that from 6 to 8, I haven't changed my activities. I'm just more effective with the activities I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So let's talk about, now that we've got that in base, we've got sort of covered to get the clients in, work with our real estate partners, financial planners, advisors, all the different pillars of business, right? Then we've added the value proposition. So they've sent that lead in. So that lead comes into you now, Daryl. So what's the first thing that you want to know with that person that comes to you when the phone rings?
Well, again, it goes back to that 5, 6, 7. I want to start talking to them. I'm a huge believer in people don't care what you know until they know that you care. So you've got to go through that questioning, and it all comes back again to restarting the process. You've got to start that 5, 6, 7 process again, start asking questions. I'm a huge believer in creating a plan with clients. I ask a question with the clients, and I think it's really important, rather than talking about the interest rate, ask them, when do you want to have your mortgage paid off? And your response that you get from people is sometimes surprising on that, right? And you start to ask them questions like that, and then you say, okay, well, if we did this, it would take 25 years, but your goal is to have it paid off in 18 years. So
right.
These are the changes we need to make. These are the steps we need to go through with you. And now you take on more of that financial advisor role versus I'm competing on the 5-year fixed rate. Right? Now you're creating a relationship with them, and you bring into it, do you have kids? Are they going to university? Do you want to own rental properties? Have you thought about these? Showing them comparisons. I know we do up a lot of graphs and comparisons on the GoMax system that show real estate versus the stock market, and gives them some specific data on it. Have you thought about these things? You're contributing to your RSP. How's it doing for you? Right? Versus just focusing on what's your debt ratio on your 5-year fixed mortgage. There's so much else there that we can pull into the picture and give them plans or help them with plans so that they create a plan that they're going to stick with. And then the next step beyond that is you become their accountability partner. So rather than just solving their problem today, getting into a house, doing a refinance or renewal, whatever it is, you then become a long-term accountability partner and create an ongoing relationship.
Right. Now, one of the things is, say a client comes in, and you mentioned this on too, and you've got their needs known, right? Do you just offer them a 5-year fixed rate, or do you go into different option products with them?
And I think that's huge. Yeah, and again, I think that's huge is know your products, and more importantly, know your competitors' products. So if we're competing with, and I don't believe mortgage brokers are competing with mortgage brokers, and I don't like to see that type of competition. We've got a small chunk compared to the banks. So I think we're competing largely with the major institutions. And it always surprises me when people don't know what the clauses are. So how does the Royal Bank calculate their discharge? How does TD Bank deal with locking in a variable rate mortgage? These kinds of things. Knowing your competition, so that if they have been out shopping, I don't think it's a bad thing that people shop to the banks. Okay, I'm confident in what I can deliver is very different to what the banks deliver. But I can deliver a lot better product if I know what they're talking about, and I can sell features that are going to help them. We had a great example of that. You know, speaking to a young lady, she was 22 years old, and she had talked to the local credit union. Okay? And she told the rate, and she was very excited, and she spoke up in the group of I got this rate, and was really proud of herself on what she got. So you don't want to take away that pride and confidence and put her down. But I just started asking her a few questions. And I said, you know, you're 22 years old. At that point, we're in Penticton. It's a very small town. I said, did you plan on being in Penticton for a lot of years? And she said, well, I'm not sure. And I said, well, what would get you to move out of Penticton? She goes, well, I'm actually dating a guy in Calgary right now. And so that's 3 questions, right? And you start talking and asking these questions, they start coming up. And I started explaining to her, well, if you have a credit union mortgage that's locked in for 5 years, and over the next couple of years you plan to move to Calgary, you're going to face a penalty to get out of that mortgage. And she had no idea about that. Right? And so just by a few simple questions, you find out some details, you know your competitor, all of a sudden you've got a solution that's going to be much better than what she currently has. And she's now excited. We haven't made her feel bad, but she's now excited about the opportunity that you've created for her.
Which is fantastic. And I think that's the key thing, is that you got to look at building more relationship versus being transaction-based now, you know, on that part of it. And you should always be in a relationship-based business, and that's what mortgages are. But if you try and compete in that transaction-based business, it's always going to be a race to the lowest interest rate, which is going to be a race to the lowest commission dollars these days.
Exactly, and I think that's something we have to look at. Boris Bozic, I don't know if many of our listeners listen to his blog on a weekly basis, but I thought he did a really interesting one. It made me think the other day on financial literacy. And, you know, talking about financial literacy right down to the high school level, where kids should be learning about it. And I did a follow-up blog to that this week. And, you know, it's interesting. You've got professional clients here that are literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars, running very, very successful businesses. But then when we talk to them about very, very simple concepts within the mortgage world, they have no idea, no understanding.
Yeah.
And so creating that environment where we're really coaching people, and not just coaching people to get the deal done, but coaching them for the next 5, 10, 15 years. You know, I know Greg Williamson, he's been really big on the 10-year relationship, creating a 10-year term and sticking with that clients for 10 years. And I think that's a great start and something that we need to look at. You know, I don't think the 10 years are fit for everybody, but I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think we really have to look at ourselves differently and look at ourselves as coaches versus just slamming a deal done.
Correct. I couldn't agree with you more. So one other good thing I want to talk about is, like, now that you got the clients all happy, you've gone into the 5, 6, and 7 plan with them, Daryl, right? And they're extremely ecstatic with it. Do you work on leveraging that client for more business?
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I think to me, that's one of the things that the accountability partner is all about, is it gives you multiple opportunities. I'm always trying to plan my next touch with the client. So I'm going to be giving you a call in 3 months because this is what we need to talk to about at that time. So they expect the call. They know why the call is coming. The other thing I do is, for years and years, we've talked about, you know, I'm never too busy for your referrals, or, you know, lines like that. And I've tried to get away from those, and a number of other people have talked about that, and I really agree with it. So instead of asking for a referral, you know, you change the verbiage around just a little bit to ask if they have a friend or family member who would also benefit from this helpful advice, or this program, or this plan, or do you have anybody else that you would like to share this idea with? So that's more of you're trying to benefit the client that you're talking to versus what's in it for me. A referral is they're giving something to you versus changing a few of the words around, and it's something that's in it for them, helping their friends and family, helping them share some tips with other people.
Right. So you find that's like, is there a specific one or two lines you can share with us, Daryl? Those the lines?
That's really the lines that I really push, and I think there's that's going after the individual, and I think the other area, and this may kind of more work so with the prospects, but I think the other thing to look at is there's huge ability to leverage other people's databases. And this is something, obviously having GoMax and the database side of things, it's a big focus I have. And I think a lot of people will come up and say, well, I don't have a database. And I think there's two things there that I jump all over every single time. And first off, chances are other people that have databases. The beauty of that is most of those people in their databases love them, and you can leverage that relationship. And I think the other thing is, I think a database is incredibly easy to build. And Brian Buffini and Company coaching in the States, I think they do a phenomenal job. They call it the Mayor campaign. So it's kind of like kissing babies, but their whole concept is every time you go to a social, whether it's friends and family or it's a wine and cheese for work, it doesn't matter what it is. Every time you go out, you make the habit of collecting 5 business cards. Or you set the goal of, I'm going to collect, it doesn't matter if you're going to the store and getting groceries. Talk to the checkout people. Ask a couple questions. Have your business card there ready to go. Ask for their contact details. If you put 5 new people in your database every week, that's 130 people in 6 months, 260 people in 12 months. Right? That's a big database. People don't think that, but on average, stats show, and I believe that I'm going by memory, but I think the number, on average, everybody knows 288 people.
Right.
So if you have 130 people after 6 months in your database, they all know 288 people. You're talking a huge amount of people, and you start using the verbiage like, do you have a friend or family member who would benefit from this? Or would you like to share these tips? So if you're giving valuable information out, don't assume people know that they should share it.
I would agree with you. Yeah.
Right? Remind them to share it. Right? Would you like to share it? Encourage them to do those things.
Well, you got to be confident, and I think that's one of the key things that you start off with. And as you can sound in Daryl's voice for everyone listening down there, it's a confidence factor, and it's not an arrogance; it's a confidence. You have to have the confidence in your ability, and you have to understand that you've got to believe yourself that you, as a mortgage broker, are the best option. And you personally, if you don't think you're the best option for your clients, it's going to come across that way. But you got to believe that if they don't dealing with you, they're not going to find the best product and get the best options. And you got to have that confidence level.
And I think one of the best ways to build that confidence, and I think most of the people on the phone on the call today will cringe when I say it, but is role playing. And it doesn't matter whether you're role playing with the mirror in the bathroom, or you're role playing with your spouse or a friend, a coworker. It doesn't matter. Scripting things and role playing them is, I think, the number one way to get better at, whether you're doing the 5, 6, 7, whether you're asking for a referral, leveraging somebody else's database, having your, I'm sure most people have heard about your 15-second elevator speech. The whole concept there, if you have somebody in an elevator for 15 seconds, what would you say that would get them interested in what you do? And if you have those things scripted and you role play them, the more you role play them, the less they're scripted. But you have to start at that scripting point where you script them out, get the points across, and then practice and practice. It's like, Tiger Woods was the #1 golfer in the world, and he tore down his swing right down to basics and rebuilt it back up. It's no different. It's practicing it, trying to regroove that swing. Our job is no different. The more we invest in that, the more time and energy we invest, the better we get at it.
And I could agree with more. For all the callers out there, I think one of the key things that if you been around here for a fair bit and talking with very successful brokers and including with our own team, scripts and key points are huge in your presentation factor with your clients and with your prospects or referral sources. And I think everyone that has been successful, they follow a certain script pattern. They have multiple scripts, or they have multiple key value proposition points that they know off the hand that they can pull out at any time during a conversation to go to any direction.
And I think that point there is key. A lot of people fear scripts because they say it doesn't give them that natural flow or that creativity. But I think that point there is key, Jared, is that the more of those scripts you have and the more of those value points that you have scripted out, all of a sudden there's trigger points in the conversation, and boom, that one fits. Boom, this one fits. It's not just a pre-formatted. The whole idea of 5, 6, 7 is asking questions and letting the client or the referral source lead the conversation, but you've already got some pre-planned out responses depending where that conversation goes.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree with you more with that. So, I mean, that's fantastic. I don't know, Chad, is there any calls or any questions for us on that? Are they gone?
Okay. I'll add one more. I'll add one more.
Yeah, go ahead, Daryl. Yeah, because we're just coming up to our half-hour time here for everybody.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Yeah. One last thing there. I think with referral sources, I think one of the most powerful things that we've used, or one of the most powerful marketing tools we've used,
right.
We've talked about testimonials for years. But one of the best ones we've seen lately is we had one of the agents, and she put together a two-piece, one-page template, and at the top, she broke the page into two halves. At the top, she had basically a little story, and it was maybe 2 paragraphs long. At the bottom, the same thing. And it was 2 stories about how she helped. The first one was a first-time buyer. The second one had to overcome a credit issue, I believe it was. And so she told a story about it, and very simple, very short, to the point, but painted that picture, and she sent that out to realtors on why realtors should use her. Mm-hmm. Right? And so rather than saying, I've got the best interest rate, I've got these things, she painted a picture on how she helped clients and what their response was afterwards. So it made it very human, and it's something that the realtors could all relate to, and it had that testimonial feel about it. And right. So it's not just her bragging about what she did. It just painted a really, really positive picture about how she helped those clients and what value she delivered, and ultimately she saved 2 sales that made money for the realtors.
Daryl, Jared, great job on this today. Fabulous. We don't have any current questions that have come in at all, but if anyone does want to type in a question, they are welcome. I will tell you both that you've got lots of good comments on the chat board saying how well of a job you have done today, and always appreciate your comments. Is there any questions that anyone wanted to bring in at all, or Jared or Daryl, do you have any further comments you'd like to make at all?
Well, thanks, Sean. One other further comment I just want to make on Daryl with testimonials. I think the next level of testimonials is you got to incorporate YouTube videos. And I think if you can get into that next level of not only also the written testimonial, but also you should, if your clients want to give permission, you should get a 2 or 3 minute testimonial. You can ask 2 or 3 different types of questions. You can even look online to see what other mortgage brokers, realtors are doing. But I think if you start building up a YouTube library for your website of testimonials will be another key thing that will help you with your business down the road.
Couldn't agree more. And again, it makes it easier to paint that picture because you've got somebody that's passionate about what they just experienced, and they'll share that passion with you. And I think the video stuff is really, really important these days. I know Brian Matthew talked about it a while ago on his videos, and he does a really good job on it. And again, it doesn't have to be anything. You don't need expensive equipment, all these things. It's really basic, and you can do it in such a simple, inexpensive format and have real power to it.
Absolutely. And of course, you get your new iPhone 5 today.
Well, great job, guys. Again, no, it doesn't look like any more questions. Actually, a few more great comments came in. Some newer brokers suggesting they're having some challenges, and they've got some ideas here that you've assisted with them, which is exactly the intent of our call today. I do want to also give everyone on the call a bit of a heads up as well, as this Hear from the Pros is going to run every single month, and it's some great practical knowledge from some industry veterans that really know our industry. Also starting in late September, early October as well, every other week there's going to be, we've facilitated a professional coaching company through Brian Tracy's coaching company. And there will be a 1-hour call specifically on some systems and practices on how to improve your sales and marketing techniques to help grow your business. So in conjunction with the practitioners that you're hearing from today and the sales and marketing gurus on the other side, I think if you can attend all these calls, we think you'll have some fantastic growth, and we look forward to some feedback on that. We'll stay tuned for your next Hear from the Pros, which will be in the middle of October, and we'll get those dates out to you shortly as well, and you'll hear from the coaching very, very shortly. But again, Daryl, Jared, fabulous job. Everyone at VERICO, we appreciate you attending, and please tell others in your office, if they weren't attending today, the value you got, and hope we see more of you on the call next month as well. All the best, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, guys. Well done.